What's up, my friend? Welcome back to another video, and today we're taking a look at Keepforest's newest library called Watchkeeper. And so they call it Modern Countdown Percussion, which is essentially a collection of watches, clocks, time-based sounds, and they turn them into percussion. You can use the sounds raw and organically as well, and there's a whole selection of like hybrid processing and samples that you can use. And the biggest draw to this library is really the engine, and it's primarily made for sound designers. And so if you know me on my channel for any length of time, you know I am not a sound designer. I'm like the complete opposite. And so a funny little story, Watchkeeper invited me to do a video on this library. So they sent me a copy, which I'm very grateful for. And then they invited me to jump on a Zoom call with the other influencers. Influencers is, to me, gets kind of a bad rap. So I don't really like to use that word that much. But anyway, we were on that Zoom call, right? And so he was showing us the library, the owner and the creator, which is amazing. And while going through the stuff, I was like kind of like nodding, but the whole time I was like, sorry, what were you saying? Like, what is that knob? What are you touching there? And so needless to say, I was kind of lost for a lot of it. That's not their fault at all though, right? That's just the nature of the library is due to sound design, and it's made for complex sort of rhythms and have a lot of flexibility. So I'm going to do my best as an orchestral composer to approach this from a simple standpoint of how I would personally use it. What drew me to this library primarily was the actual watch and sound design, the watch and clock rhythms. I always wanted to add a bit more ear candy to my pop music anyway, and so I figured that this library was the perfect way to do that. And they call it the biggest watch and clock library on the market, which I do believe. It's quite large, and they have the price tag to match as well. So it's not really catered to the hobbyist market, if you will. But then here on the sales page, you can see what it's all about. So there's 700 plus contact patches. There's multi-patches, over 300 of them, sound design patches, 2,000 plus snapshots, 3,000 custom rhythm presets, effects custom presets, and 240 FX chains. 1,300 loops and 800 one-shots, stem loops, stems, and a wave folder. And then here's all the benefits for sound designers as well. One of the biggest ones is user sample import. So you can drag in your own samples into their engine, and then you can chop it and change it up however you like with the processing in the engine. There's also the export and import MIDI files as well. So if you like how a specific rhythm sounds, you can drag it in and out of your DAW. Super, super cool. And then the layering system and all that stuff. So consider this more of an overview video of some of the basic functions. And then in subsequent videos, if we touch more on this library, I'll basically take a look at the tutorials on Keepforest channel. So we were on the Zoom call and they were talking about creating some more tutorials. English was not the owner's first language. And so with all the stuff he's busy with, he wants to spend more time covering actual tutorials, putting videos out on how the library actually works. And so I'm definitely looking forward to that, learning how the library works even more so I can understand the library even more and therefore use it more effectively. That being said, though, one other draw for this library to me was the simple GUI. I just love the design here. It's super, super simple. You can see it's just the watch or the clock, whatever. It really is a watch. And you see the gears that are turning and stuff in the background. And essentially, whenever you play a note, you're going to see the minute hand moving. Really cool. And then as you have more samples layered together, the minute hand continues to move more and more, and so does the hour, right? Just like how regular clocks and watches work. So when you drag in any patch, or when you open up the library, let's start with that. You have the designed section and you have the raw section. So obviously it's great to have both options, and then you have the user sample import. But let's just say we have the raw section, right? So we have the basic toolkits. I just dragged in like contemporary foundations. We'll hear that in a second. But let me quickly show you the clock's metal basic here. So we have the key range here with all the different samples. The blue key range, I believe, is just more samples. But let me play this with you. And then the red key range is where you can actually pitch the samples up or down. So here's what the one shots sound like. Right, so those are the one shots. What you can do is, if you want the tick tock sound, you can literally just alternate between two samples of your choice, like, right, and then you have the minute hand moving there. Again, I just love the simple graphic. Now, again, the next step you would want to take is to then take off the step mode, and that's how you start to activate the rhythm. So We can see here, this is a very simple rhythm. This is what this sounds like. And of course, it's mapped to your DAW tempo. So let's move it up to 130 from 106. Right, and you get the tick tock, tick tock. So that's cool. And there's also the ADSR, so attack, decay, sustain, release. Let's have a listen to this. Right, so that's all the way down. Release. Turn it down a little bit. There we go. And then the next page, or the step mode, basically, right? When you turn that on, you have these different options here: default, random, tick-tock, odd, even, reversed, and free. So when you're playing a certain rhythm and you want it to start in a certain space or certain selection on the grid, that's when you would want to turn on step mode. So if I press a one shot, press it again, you can see it then starts from the next available sound. Whereas if I turn it off and I want to activate the same key, it's going to start from the very beginning again. Now let's take a look at the actual rhythm section. So here we have this category, or the bar where you can select all the different rhythms. So let's just say here I'm going to go with basic 8's number 5. And this is what this sounds like. So that's really cool, right? That's just like one clock sound, but they're already playing with the different rhythmic aspects. And then here is where you can activate the different functions, or the different, sound design options. Very, very basic. Velocity. So let's say I want something's a little bit louder, something's a little bit quieter, bump up a little bit. And I like this little triplet thing at the end, so I'm going to leave that there. So let's see what that sounds like. Right? Let's take a look at pan, actually. So here you can see that we have the right channel and the left channel. Let's make that a little bit more extreme. Let's make it right here and then all the way left here. And then more center, and then alternate. So this is more of a ping pong thing. Right, left. Yeah, this kind of has like a little battery graphic to me, so that's kind of cool. Filter, as you might expect, is like high end and low end. So let's see, make it like this. Let's take a look at pitch really quickly. So this should shift the samples up and down. So let's see. Yeah. Super low and then back up. And then layers you can play around with as well. Right, so essentially you can basically play around with this as much as you like. I'm going to turn them all off for now to get the original sound source. And regarding the actual layering system, that in itself basically allows you to have doubled the samples and like triple the samples, I believe, like layered together. So you can see 3 samples are playing at the same time here. It thickens the sound up a lot more, and it gives you a chance to make it even more of a trailer sort of sound if you want to process it even more. So that was something he was demonstrating a lot in the Zoom video, the Zoom meeting. Double obviously is just 2 sounds at the same time. So lots of different options there. Okay, let's take a look at the actual velocity curve really quickly here. So I'm going to choose one more pattern. Let's just say, let's say we have this one right here. Maybe let's choose one that's a little more consistent so we can see what this curve is doing. Let's do jazz, actually. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to choose one more basic one here. So let's stick with basic ones. So the velocity curve allows everything to come up and down a little bit, right? So if you want to make the whole curve generally quieter, you can do that. If you want to make it all a little bit louder, you can do that too by raising it up. You can also do this using the mod wheel. So this is all the way up. So you're not going to get very much velocity variation here. Then turn it down. Right. So that's kind of cool. And then let's take a look at the effects really quickly here. So right now we don't have any effects, but you have all these different options here. So you have stomps, modulation, dynamics, and amps. Let's just use maybe the screamer. Very cool. And then of course you can adjust the tone of the screamer there. Let's say I want more bass, less brightness, a little more clean. Let's add one more here. We have maybe the twang. Let's see what that sounds like. Ooh. Okay, so with the twang on, I can definitely hear it's a little bit more stereo there as well. It's kind of bouncing back and forth. So you can see obviously here, there's a lot of possibilities here. And of course, if you want to just reset everything, you can do that by pressing reset all. One other thing I want to show you here is the snapshots. So it basically takes a preset, if you will, and brings it into the engine. Let's see. So it brings in a selection of sounds. Let's see another one here, maybe rotations. So we would expect this to be more mid percussion. Let's turn on one of these rhythms here, basic. Play with the velocity curve. I should probably turn it on first. Right. So yeah, that's how you would use it, more simply, I would say. Again, I'm going to have to learn more about this engine and watch the tutorials to see how this works. But anyway, that's the basics of the engine. Those are the three main pages: main, rhythm, and effects. So let me just quickly go through some of these other sounds here. Here are the contemporary foundations, toolkit basic. Here is the clocks plastic. And there are so many patches, but I'm just going to go through some of my favorites here. Here's the bells. So I'm also kind of changing the pitches there as well. Let's hear the hit cinematic here. All right, then we have the snares saturated signature. We have the high centric. Let's turn off the step mode here. Hear the pattern. One thing I forgot to mention is that you can play multiple notes at the same time. So of course you can layer patterns on top of each other. So maybe I like the 16th pattern, but I want a 32nd pattern. Then I can just make sure to layer them slightly offbeat. Like for example. Okay, I'm having trouble playing off beat there for some reason, but you get the idea. So you can obviously layer more samples together, but again, if you want just those basic rhythms, just turn off the step mode and you're going to play through those. And again, if you want to affect them, then you can choose some of these elements here, those presets, and you can also go with the snapshots if you want a different sound altogether. Let's hear the percussion hybrid. We have showdowns. Sorry, not showdowns, slowdowns, I should say. The samples are slowing down. And then one more here, the bell longs. Yeah, and what's really cool is you can press the pitch shifting keys here at any time, and it'll automatically just change the pitch of the samples as you're playing the sample. So if you want to do that, you can definitely do that, right? But yeah, overall, all the sound quality, and like I mentioned, the patterns themselves, out of the box are kind of the ones that attracted me the most. I personally do not need any of these, like the engines or anything like that to do all the transforming and processing. It's so cool to have if I was a sound designer, honestly. But for me personally, it's not something that I just personally tinkle with. But if you're a sound designer and you enjoy this sort of thing, by all means, get really deep into this. And if you understand all the lingo and stuff that sound designers use, I would highly recommend checking out Keepforest channel as well, because they have some kind of like quick look patch walkthroughs on their channel. So definitely check that out if you want to understand some of those functions a little bit more. All right, so let's take a quick look at the user sample import here. So if I click that patch, it's going to bring in this patch where there's nothing loaded. Oh, I should solo this up, sorry. And let's put it on channel number 1. So right now I basically have nothing loaded except one simple clock sound, right? But if I want to load something, I definitely can. So what I would need to do is go into my documents, and I'm going to search up, W8V. So I'm going to search up a WAV file. Let's see what I can find here. So you know what? Let's find a kick of some sort. You know what? I'm going to search up kick of my own, and let's just say I want to bring in this kick here, this industrial kick. So when I bring it in, I can add new, drag and drop, or replace. Right now I don't have anything, so I'm just going to load it in new. Let's hear what this kick sounds like. Right, so there's the kick itself. Then we can add in, let's say, one of these patterns. Right, and of course I can pan it. Let's see. And now I'm pressing another key in addition to it to add more sounds to it. Let's add in. This is more of a triplet, right? Da da, da triplet, triplet, triplet. And that's the kick itself. So yeah, basically it allows you to do everything that you want to do with the original samples, but with your own samples as well. And that's super cool. If you have like longer phrases, let's say you have an ostinato, what you can do is drag it in, and then it recognizes your BPM of that ostinato for the most part. If not, you can just adjust it to your own liking. And then you can kind of chop it up and slow it down, speed it up according to what the engine is doing. So you have a lot of flexibility there. And then you can, go into those individual sections on the grid and affect it however you like. So it's very, very flexible in that regard. And again, that's something I will have to dive into myself a little bit more, because I don't usually do user sample import. For me, I usually do a lot of using the samples out of the box that the developer has provided. For me, that's a big thing that I usually buy in a library, right? Or download in most cases. One more thing here, again, if we talked about the MIDI output, so if we click and drag into our session, we can do that. Actually, I have to do it on a MIDI track. So please press get MIDI. Oh, get MIDI first. There we go. Now I can click and drag, just like this, and then we can scroll and see what that pattern is. So it's a relatively basic rhythm, but again, if we have a listen. Okay, I think the reason why I wasn't playing was because the preset I chose, or the snapshot I chose, didn't really have the sounds mapped to that key. So I'm going to go back to a basic clocks patch. Let's say clocks metal basic again, without any snapshot. Let's see if this works. So where's the MIDI here? Right here. Let's see. There we go. Right. And of course, if you want to edit the MIDI, that's the whole point. You can take some sounds and drag them up and down to activate different samples. You can switch up the rhythm yourself, and that's super cool. All right. The last thing I want to show you really quickly here is the multis. So I'm going to delete that. Let's go here. And so the multis are the other half of the library. This is where you can get those pre-orchestrated sounds right out of the box. They're all layered already. So multis here. You can see there are different artist stems. There are sound design elements with all the different individual sounds that you can bring in. And then you have the tones as well. But let's just take a quick look here at the artist stems. I just brought in the first one, driven countdowns, and this is what loads up. So let's have a listen to this. super cool, right? So you pretty much have a pre-made beat ready to go. And of course you can go into each one, you can click the icon there, you can fiddle with just this sound. Let's say I only want to do the bass, and I want to change the pitch. Now, let's say you don't like these sounds at all, like you want to change up the sounds a little bit. You can always press keys in sequence, so it changes up the sequence itself, or you can just change the keys so the samples change. Let's try it. Let's press keys. So you can hear some of those samples have changed now, right? Let's try this again. Let's try it again. Right, now some of those sounds in the middle have used different sounds from different parts of the movie, I guess. Let's slow it down just a little bit. Oops, okay, I'll drag this down to, let's say, 88. Yeah, and it sounds just as good because these are not pre-recorded loops. These are basically loops that are just put together, I think, from the different samples being added together. So unless you like time stretch them really, really long, or you speed them up really, really quickly, you're not going to really have to worry about them having artifacts or anything like that, those clicks and pops. So if you're interested in all those different aspects of the sound design, you can definitely play around with this. Again, I'm looking forward to Keepforest tutorials on their channel going over this stuff. But yeah, and you see here, I've just made a list of some of the stuff I wanted to talk about from the library. I know I didn't get super, super deep. Again, this is not really my sweet spot in terms of functionality, but the actual sounds themselves, which is what I wanted the library for, are simply superb in terms of the sound quality. It's recorded really, really well. And the basic engine at its core works really well too. And then if you're a sound designer and you're super into that sort of thing, tweaking and changing the sounds and all that stuff, then I think this will be an absolute playground for you. You're going to have so much fun. And yeah, it's just a lot of potential in this library. They were telling, the owner was telling us that this is the culmination of all his experience in sound design over the years. And the engine itself, he was demonstrating on the call, had so many unique functions that, again, I just didn't really understand that well, but overall, I could see the power that's located in this engine. And so I would highly recommend, again, checking out their channel, definitely see what it's all about if you want to go a little bit deeper into some of this functionality. That being said, if you want to check out my sample library buyer's guide, if you are an orchestral composer and you want some of those recommendations that I have for, libraries that I use on a regular basis, then I would love to give it to you as a gift, absolutely free. Just click the link below in the description box and you can grab it. And it's basically where I categorized all my favorite libraries into the different orchestral sections like strings and woodwinds, brass, percussion. But I've also included like jazz libraries, ethnic libraries, sound design, stuff like that. And it's all condensed into that one PDF. And yeah, I've also included the prices and how you might want to use the library. So it's super comprehensive, and I just want to give it to you as sort of a guide for the next time you're on the market for a new library. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much, and take care. Bye-bye.